Right now, this message and almost everything you have ever seen on the internet traveled to you through a hose lying on the bottom of the ocean. And there are only about 500 of them keeping the entire modern world online. Not satellites, not some invisible cloud floating above your head. Hoses on the seafloor. Some of them thinner than your wrist. Every video you've watched, every message you've sent to someone in another country, every online purchase, every video call, every song. Odds are it went underwater, squeezed through a strand of glass thinner than a human hair, inside a tube you could wrap your hand around, resting in total darkness, miles below the surface. And here's the part that should genuinely bother you. These cables break all the time. Around 100 to 200 times every single year, something down there snaps. So why doesn't the internet just go out? Let's start with what these things actually are, because the reality is way weirder than most people imagine. When you picture the cable carrying the internet across the Atlantic Ocean, you probably imagine something massive. Something the size of a subway tunnel maybe, armoured like a battleship. Nope. Out in the deep ocean, a submarine internet cable is about the same diameter as a garden hose. That's it. You could hold it in one hand. And inside that hose, the actual internet part is almost nothing. A handful of glass fibres, each one about as thick as a strand of your hair. Everything else, the plastic, the copper, the steel, is just there to protect those fragile little threads of glass. Because here's how your data actually travels. It's light, literally. Flashes of laser light, blinking on and off billions of times per second, racing through glass so pure that if the ocean were made of it, you could see all the way to the bottom. Every flash is data. This video, right now, was at some point a pattern of light pulses screaming through glass under the sea at around 200,000 kilometers per second. But light has a problem. It fades. Send a laser pulse into a fiber, and after about 100 kilometers, it gets dim, blurry, weak, keep going, and eventually the signal just dissolves into noise. The ocean is thousands of kilometers wide. So how do you get light across it? You boost it. Along the cable, roughly every 70 to 100 kilometers, engineers install a repeater, a device that grabs the fading light and amplifies it back to full strength. A single transatlantic cable might have well over 100 of these things spaced along its length, like streetlights on an underwater highway. Which raises an awkward question. Repeaters need electricity, and they're sitting at the bottom of the ocean, thousands of kilometers from the nearest outlet. The solution is kind of insane. The cable powers itself. Wrapped around those glass fibers is a layer of copper, and stations on shore push high voltage electricity, in some systems around 10,000 volts, down that copper line. The whole cable is essentially one continuous extension cord stretching across an entire ocean, feeding every repeater along the way. So that's the machine. Glass hair carrying light, copper carrying power, a plastic and steel jacket holding it together, a hose full of lightning and lasers lying in the dark. Now for the hidden problem. The ocean is trying to destroy it. Near the shore is where cables have the worst time. Shallow water is crowded. Fishing boats drag heavy trawl nets across the seabed. Ships drop anchors, weighing several tons. And every year, those anchors and nets account for the majority of all cable breaks on Earth. Not sharks, not spies. Mostly just a fishing boat that had no idea it was about to unplug two countries from each other. That's why cables near shore look completely different from cables in the deep. Close to land, engineers armour them. Layers of steel wire wrapped around the core, sometimes doubled up until the cable is as thick as your arm. Then they don't even leave it on the seabed. A special plough, towed behind a ship, cuts a trench and buries the cable a metre or more under the mud. Out in the deep ocean, past where anchors and nets can reach, the armour comes off. Down there, the cable goes back to being a skinny garden hose, because at 4,000 meters deep, almost nothing can touch it. Almost. In 2006, an earthquake off the coast of Taiwan triggered underwater landslides, avalanches of mud and rock roaring down the slopes of the seafloor. Those landslides snapped multiple cables in one event, and large parts of Asia suddenly found their internet crawling or cut off. Banks, airlines, businesses, all scrambling because a patch of seabed moved. And in 2022, when a volcano erupted near Tonga, it severed the single cable connecting the island nation to the world. One cable, one break, and an entire country essentially vanished from the internet for weeks. So yes, the deep is safer, but it's not safe. Which brings us back to that number, 100 to 200 breaks a year. Somewhere on Earth, a cable is failing roughly every few days. So why haven't you noticed? 2 reasons. The first is redundancy. Major routes, like the ones between North America and Europe, aren't served by one cable. They're served by many, taking different paths across the ocean. When one breaks, your data doesn't stop. It reroutes. In milliseconds, automatically, your video call hops onto a different cable. Maybe 100s of kilometers away, and you never feel a thing. The internet was literally designed to route around damage. Most of the time, a cable break is invisible to you. The second reason is stranger. There's a fleet of ships whose entire job is fixing the internet. Cable repair ships wait on standby in ports around the world. When a break is detected and operators can pinpoint it within a stunningly small distance by measuring how long signals take to bounce back from the damage, a ship heads out to the exact spot in the open ocean. Then comes the part that sounds made up. If the cable is too deep for robots, the crew uses a grapnel, a hook, on a rope. They drag it along the seafloor, sometimes kilometers down, blindly fishing for a hose in the dark, using a tool that sailors would have recognized 150 years ago. When they snag it, they haul the broken end up to the ship. Then they go catch the other end. On deck, technicians splice the glass fibers back together, fusing hair-thin strands with surgical precision, on a moving ship, in ocean weather. Then they seal it, test it, and lower the repaired cable back into the abyss. The whole operation can take days or weeks, and it's happening constantly, somewhere on the planet, right now. Here's what makes all of this even better. None of it is new. The first cable across the Atlantic wasn't laid in the internet age. It was laid in 1858. Before cars, before light bulbs. Ships hauled a copper telegraph wire across the entire ocean. And for the first time in human history, a message crossed the Atlantic in minutes instead of 10 days by boat. Queen Victoria sent the American president a telegram, and people celebrated in the streets. Then, after about 3 weeks, the cable died. The insulation failed, partly because an engineer kept cranking up the voltage, trying to make signals clearer. And the whole thing quietly cooked itself. It took 8 more years of failures, bankruptcies, and lost cables before a durable transatlantic line finally worked in 1866. And here's the thing. The basic playbook from the 1860s, ships paying out cable over the stern, grapnels dragging the seabed for broken lines, splicing on deck, is still recognizably the same playbook used today. We swapped copper for glass and Morse code for laser light, but the ocean hasn't changed, so the job hasn't either. Now, you might be wondering about the obvious alternative. Why not just use satellites? They're up there. No anchors, no sharks, no landslides. 2 problems: capacity and distance. A single modern fiber cable can carry hundreds of terabits per second, enough to handle millions of video streams at once. Satellites can't come close to matching that volume, and every bit they carry has to travel up to space and back down, adding delay. For the heavy lifting of global data, satellites are a backup singer, cables are the whole band. That's why the commonly cited figure is that around 99% of international data travels under the sea. And demand keeps exploding, which is why some of the newest cables are jaw-dropping. The Maria cable, built by Microsoft, Meta, and the telecom company Telxius, stretches from Virginia to Spain and was designed to carry up to 200 terabits per second through one hose. Tech giants aren't just renting space on cables anymore. They're building their own private oceans of glass, because their businesses die the moment the light stops. So here's the picture you should carry with you. Stretched across the planet right now are well over 1 million kilometers of these cables, enough to wrap around the Earth dozens of times, lying across abyssal plains, draped over undersea mountains, buried in coastal mud, humming with 10,000 volts, and flickering with laser light in absolute darkness. Nobody sees them. There's no monument to them. Most people don't know they exist. But tonight, when you send a message that crosses an ocean, think about the trip it takes. Down a wire, out of your city, to a building on a beach somewhere, and then into the water, into the dark, past shipwrecks and trenches, and creatures we haven't named yet, through a strand of glass thinner than your hair, boosted back to life every 100 kilometers by machines that will never see sunlight. And if that message arrives, and it will, in a fraction of a second, it's because 170 years of engineers refuse to accept that an ocean should be able to keep people apart. And right now, everything you've ever seen on the internet travelled through a hose on the bottom of the ocean. But it's not really a hose, is it? It's the longest, deepest, most invisible bridge humans have ever built. And you cross it thousands of times a day without ever getting wet.